Powell. Remember, she wrote the book, License to Lie. She's outlined all of Andrew Weissman's horrific tactics in the past. Also joining us, the author of the brand new book. It's called Radicals, Resistance, Revenge, Judge Jeanine Pirro. Sidney, let me begin with you. You said for the time being, let's go over first what you saw with the behavior of Jim Comey and what he said. And that was after McCabe, his deputy, said you don't need a lawyer. To me, that's a simple Miranda right violation, constitutional denial to a 33-year war veteran.
That's one of the problems with it, Sean. What's especially egregious is that special counsel knew from at least as early as November 15th of 2017 that Mr. Comey had conducted this ambush interview of General Flynn and did not disclose that to the defense until 4 days before his guilty plea was reaffirmed in front of Judge Sullivan. So that's just part of the exculpatory information that was withheld by the government.
You talk about there never would have been a plea to begin with if the government had disclosed their Brady information. What is this exculpatory information that you have? Why have they been unwilling to abide by that? And what does it mean in terms of bringing the case before the judge? Because, basically what you're saying is they have abused their power. And, the entire prosecution should be dismissed. That means the special counsel should be dismissed because of, your words, egregious government misconduct.
Yes, the prosecution of Mr. Flynn, particularly General Flynn, should be dismissed because of egregious government misconduct and their stunning Brady violations from the beginning of their tenure as special counsel through now. They are still withholding exculpatory evidence from us. The January 30th memo that Sarah just talked about, we don't have that yet. We only have like a 3-line summary of that statement.
You said that you're not seeking to have Flynn's guilty plea thrown out. We saw the misconduct of Comey. He's admitting to it himself. And clearly, when he was told he didn't need an attorney when he did, I think that's straightforward. But you said you're not seeking to have the guilty plea thrown out. But my recollection is Sidney Powell, that in fact the FBI agents that interviewed him, they didn't think he was lying. And you talked about enormous amounts of pressure. I would assume that they were saying either you sign this, and now by this point he's bankrupt and selling his house. I assume they were saying stuff like, oh, let me guess, if you don't, we're going to go after your son who was in business with you.
Well, we know that Mr. Mueller got a letter from Mr. Rosenstein that allowed him to target Michael Flynn Jr. And there was significant pressure put on General Flynn to enter a guilty plea while they were hiding all the evidence that showed he had not been an agent of Russia, that there
Sidney,
were no Logan Act violations. But we're not going to, the plan, at least right now anyway, is not to withdraw the guilty plea per se, but to have the entire prosecution dismissed because of the egregious misconduct.
So you withhold the exculpatory information. He's going bankrupt. No offense, but you lawyers can be very expensive sometimes, and not in your case. But withhold that information. Then the agents that interviewed him didn't think he lied. You either say you lied or we're going after your kid. So I'm just guessing a soldier, a man of honor said, I'm not going to let my kid go down for something I didn't do. I'll dive on the sword. Why do I imagine that's the scenario that really unfolded?
Well, when you put together the fact that Mr. Mueller got the letter authorizing him to target Michael Flynn Jr., and they had seized Michael Flynn Jr.'s computers and electronic devices and those things, it's not too hard to imagine that that might have happened. I don't want to speak now to things that are not a matter of public record, but stay tuned because more and more will become apparent as we proceed through the litigation.
Sidney, I always ask people that when I'm interviewing them, if you can't tell me certain things, am I over the target?
You sure know how to put somebody on the spot, Sean.
I'm a professional. I've been doing this a while. But seriously, am I close?
Oh, well, like I said, there's a lot of information there that people can put the pieces together from.
Look, you know, Sean, there's no question. We're talking about a constitutional issue. Brady material, exculpatory material, January 30 memo that she has not gotten yet. And by the way, Sidney, I don't blame you. I wouldn't seek to withdraw the plea. I would move for a dismissal of all the charges. It is the totality of circumstances. The fact that you've got the biggest liars and leakers in the FBI, and I write about this in my book, Radicals, Resistance, and Revenge. The biggest liars and leakers, Comey and McCabe, violating protocol, violating White House rules, saying you don't need an attorney, denial of his constitutional rights. They've had him in their crosshairs since Donald Trump was elected. And to be honest with you, this judge is a good judge as far as I'm concerned. He's got to look at the complexity of this whole thing and allow for the dismissal of these charges. This is absurd.
Yeah, and he has a history in the Ted Stevens case. I know it was too late. The guy already lost his seat. This is the same judge that said, no, out, done. And on the same issue, really? Isn't it abuse of power, prosecutorial misconduct? Like you write about, let's see, Andrew Weissman, the same guy in the book, License to Lie.
Exactly, and Judge Sullivan is the judicial hero of License to Lie precisely because of the Stevens case and the report he ordered pursuant to an investigation of the department itself that found pervasive, intentional, and systematic misconduct by the prosecutors. This is Stevens on steroids.
Without a doubt. And Jim Comey, based upon what he did, saying he thinks he would have gotten away with it. I mean, why doesn't he even have a law license? Why isn't this guy being charged with the same kinds of things that he is charging other people with, lying and leaking?
Why isn't lying to the President of the United States a violation of 18 United States Code 1001?
It is.
Well, let me go through your statement. Now, Judge Emmett Sullivan has set the date for the 18th of December, Sidney, for the sentencing. And you made very clear that you considered the case far from resolved for the time being. I want to go over this. You're not seeking to have Flynn's guilty plea thrown out, but you are saying and pointing out the entire prosecution should be dismissed. Now, this prosecution team would consist of, this is Mueller's team, this is the special counsel, this is Andrew Weissman. Doesn't Andrew Weissman have a history of withholding exculpatory evidence?
Oh, he practically wrote the book on it, no pun intended.
Well, he wrote your book on it because you chronicle that, don't you?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so my next question is, the prosecutor, member of Mueller's team, is denying the accusations, but I understand in court today that it got a little more heated and a little more deeply involved than what it was telegraphed to be ahead of time, right?
Yes, we did talk about some of the Brady violations. I reported some of them to the court. He set a briefing schedule for the Brady issues and the motion to compel and the motion to hold them in contempt for their failure to produce Brady to be on the calendar, and we'll argue it October 31st.
Well, why would a judge allow the Brady, why would they allow them to get away with withholding this information?
Well, you know,
I don't think he will.
Yeah,
he reminded them again today that his Brady order stands regardless of the plea agreement or the plea.
So they can take years of this man's life, they can bankrupt him, he sells his house. The FBI never thought he lied to the FBI.
That's right. They never thought he lied.
Okay.
But the judge is still making a decision. The judge has to hear all of the evidence to decide the case. And if Sidney weren't on this case, I don't know if we would even be addressing this issue. So, you know, kudos to her for going forward with what is clearly an unethical, if not illegal, prosecution.
Well, now we get to the